Welcome viewers to 284 Media. I am your host, Kamal Haynes, and today we will be featuring the British Virgin Islands Cricket Association newly elected president, Mr. Neil Haynes. We get to all the details regarding some of his intended plans for the 2024 onward season in the British Virgin Islands when it comes to local cricket, right after a quick commercial break.
He hit me. Will CG cover this?
Don't worry. Remember when I was in that competitive arm wrestling circuit? Three-time champion, baby. I did feel bad crushing all those arms and dreams. So I took them all out for ice cream. And then we got crushed. Anyway, CG handled my claims fast.
That explains the arm.
The best cover for the best value. CG Insurance. Good like that.
Orange alert! Fire is spreading across the BVI. The fastest, most reliable, and affordable fiber internet service is here for you. Look out for fire in these new locations: Slaney, Duff Bottom, Manual Reef, Seacows Bay, Albion, Hannah's, Palestina, Pleasant Valley, and Havers. Fiber is in your area. Call 444-4444 or visit a CCT store to find out more and bring it home. More locations coming soon.
Welcome back, viewers. As promised, I have with me Mr. Neil Haynes, the newly elected president of the British Virgin Islands Cricket Association. Welcome, Mr. Haynes, and thank you so much for allowing me in your space to do this very important interview.
Yeah, thank you. Good to be here. Appreciate the time.
Yes. As we would have known, over the last weekend, there was the election held to basically elect a new board as part of the British Virgin Islands Cricket Association. At the end of the dust, after it had all settled, you were the newly elected president of the British Virgin Islands Cricket Association. Firstly, congratulations. And
Thank you.
Tell us, the viewers, a little bit about yourself and what would have gotten you involved in local cricket here.
Sure. Yeah. I mean, I think you're right. First of all, it's great to have a new board elected and be part of that. I'm very honoured to be part of that. I think there's a lot of excitement from the team of volunteers because they're not, they are volunteer positions. So it takes a lot for people to put their hand up and say they want to help a sport like cricket. So, very proud to be part of that and grateful that there's a team of people that have done the same. My personal story with cricket is, I played from being a small boy, grew up playing cricket, loved cricket. My father played. I grew up in an era where the best players and the best team in the world was the West Indies. Used to go and watch England play the West Indies, and normally the West Indies would win. So I've always had a love for cricket, and then moving here 4 years ago, took the opportunity to be involved in one of the teams, which is the RTW Falcons team. And I've just loved being part of cricket here. I think, it's a great league, a great cricket association. There's some fantastic teams, some really nice heritage. And personally, I think I've met some of the most decent people that I've met since my time in the BVI down at that field in Greenland. So, I love every moment of it, whether that's playing or just being involved. So, yeah, it's a real honour to be involved in the Cricket Association. Okay.
And, in terms of the open positions, we do know, as it relates to the outgoing president, it was somewhat of a sudden happening in terms of what would have transpired regarding the previous board and the previous president. So what would have gotten you inspired enough to toss your hat in the running to become the new president?
Yeah, I think, what's on my mind is it's a very difficult thing to have a cricket association that doesn't get a lot of funding outside of the very generous sponsorship that some of the businesses here provide us. The positions, like I said earlier, are the volunteer positions, and everybody that's volunteered, as I understand it, always has a job. So they're doing that as almost like a second job, and it's a lot to take on board. I think it's a lot of work for people. It's a lot of commitment. It definitely isn't an easy. When I talk to the previous president and everybody that's been involved, some of those guys have put an awful lot of work into cricket here. And my view, and the reason I put my hand up, is I think for the good of cricket, for the future of cricket, we need more people involved. Actually, I think we need to think about the structure of how we manage that, and we need to be realistic about what our expectations are, and we need a plan. and I'm very happy to be somebody that I think can put some energy into trying to create a plan, create a structure, engage some people, so that we've got enough people to make a bright future for cricket. And many hands make light work, so the more people we can bring into the sort of inside from the cricket community and help, the better. And that's my perspective.
And you spoke about the issue of funding when it comes to cricket here in the BVI. We do know generally when it comes to sports in general, there's always an issue when it comes to funding. It's so hard, so difficult to generally gain sponsorship, even on a corporate level, to assist with the development of not only the sports but also the athletes that participate in these events. What do you see happening in the future, or what do you think needs to be done to basically attract more sponsorship when it comes to cricket in the BVI?
Yeah, I think that's a great question. I think the sponsors that we have and have had for many years, we've got some very loyal sponsors that have supported cricket. They're hugely valued, right? And, I think honestly, we have some sponsors that turn out and sponsor cricket year in, year out, and probably don't think much about what return they're getting for that sponsorship. They're just doing it out of the sort of generosity and loyalty, which of course the cricket community really appreciates. But I think we need to think about how we can give something back to those people that are gonna sponsor us. What are they going to get in return? Whether that's visibility of their product or brand, what that engagement might look like, or something that genuinely is for the betterment of the community. I know there's a lot of conversation in the cricket community about how can we take cricket to a younger generation, involve people in schools. How do we get sponsorship for that? How do we go about doing that? They're not easy things to go and do, but they are the types of things that we need to be talking about. And, I'm pretty confident there'll be sponsors out there that want to play a part in something like that, rather than necessarily just maybe sponsor a team, So I think there's different things that cricket can give back to different sponsors, and that's what we need to explore and, bring some new ideas as to how we might go about that.
Okay, excellent. And as you said, in terms of there are different ways of doing it, and also what is vital, what is key is ensuring that the sponsors can somewhat gain also too from the partnership when it comes to the agreement between the Cricket Association and the respective sponsors. In terms of some of your plans that you would have for 2024 onward, I know generally there are a few T20 competitions that happen on an annual basis. Yep. What will the 2024 cricket season look like under your leadership?
Yeah, it's probably a bit early to commit to that just yet, having just been elected. So I don't, genuinely don't have a fixed plan as to what the scheduling looks like. I think first priority is getting cricket back out on the field. We want to get the tournament up and running. We're going to sit down this week with the new board and work through what we need to do. But our aim would be to get cricket playing again by the end of the month, start of April, and get a tournament in place. I think that's critical. We've got a lot of players that are practicing out on the field, doing training, but they want to get out and play in a tournament. That's what people want to do. So the quicker we can get a tournament going, the better. After that, I think priorities are, we just need a plan. I think cricket needs a plan. It needs a plan for the next 5 years. And how do we build a plan? Well, that's not really down to me. That's down to the cricket community. And I think, our role as the board is to engage with the cricket community, seek their input, ask the clubs what their priorities are, and then we can build a plan that we can commit to for 5 years and work to that. And then also people can hold the board, a board accountable for that, right? And whether they're delivering against that plan. And I think that's what, in my view, needs to happen for us to have a productive, not just a productive season, but, productive seasons ongoing. And, there are lots of different conversations. Like I said, some clubs want to see kids cricket prioritised. Other clubs want to see better facilities. Some want, more prize money. And really what we have to do is just listen to the clubs and see what the priorities are, and then we can lay down a really good plan for, I think, the next 5 years.
Mm-hmm. And two things that you mentioned just now in your response. One, kid cricket. Mm-hmm. Cricket at the school level as well. Yeah. As you said, you haven't really had a conversation with your board as yet to see the plans, as to get some of the ideas. You haven't really had a conversation with the cricket community as yet to get some of the ideas. But what do you think about cricket in schools? As you've spoken about getting the connecting the youth to cricket and also developing the future of cricket. If you set about a 5-year plan, for example, will that be one of the key areas of focus under your administration?
I'd like to think so, and I'd like to think the clubs will, certainly, anecdotally talking to them, that's definitely a common point. Without revealing my age, there's a few of us that are getting up there in years and probably don't have too many cricket playing years left. And if we don't see some younger players coming through, then cricket will die out naturally here, without that. So it's important that we engage people in the game, give people an opportunity to play, make cricket more accessible for people. In the same way I was lucky when I came here, I was able to play for a team and get involved, but I know that's not always the case for everybody. We need to make cricket accessible and bring some youth through so that it's got a longer future.
Mm-hmm. Another thing you would have touched on in terms of, speaking up to the cricket community to get a gauge as it relates to what are some of the changes that they may like, is we do know, for example, the Greenland Cricket Ground, sometimes there has been discussions relating to whether it should be expanded, because of the shape of the outside field, the outer
Sure.
field, and obviously the development of the actual pitch, because you generally use one pitch, and in the past there have been some treatment to the area, and whether that now will be taken more seriously to ensure that the field is preserved and continuously improved. What are some of the things you would see from the onset, and as a cricketer yourself here,
Mm-hmm.
someone who have played on the field numerous times, that you think may need some improvements as it relates to the ground itself?
Yeah, I think facilities is a common talking point, a bit like youth cricket. A lot of clubs will talk about that. It's obviously one of the most pressing things to the players. When you actually, and I need to kind of get under the skin of it a bit more, but when you actually look at, what's happening, cricket doesn't own a ground here, right? So we essentially are, leasing that ground from Rec and Trust. To be fair, I think they do a pretty good job, given, we're not paying them millions of dollars a year. So, we can't afford to either. But, given what it is, I think they do a pretty fair job. We're very grateful to be able to play cricket there. But I get, right now, it's a mixed use ground. I mean, of course, it'd be a dream to have dedicated cricket facility here. But I don't know too many, plots of land that are suitable for a field, right? So I think reality is that's our home. We have a great fan base in Greenland. I think, like I say, you get incredibly good turnout from the community down there. It really feels like the home of cricket. And my mindset is just, look, how can we work with Rec and Trust to make that the best facility we can? And also, what can we do in the cricket community to make it better? So I know I've seen guys out there doing a lot of work on the mat, trying to improve the pitch, and I think that's part of it. Like every cricket club I've ever known, normally an hour, 2 hours before the game, guys are out there rolling the pitch, cutting the grass. That's just part and parcel of community cricket. Maybe professional is a bit different, but that's just part and part of community cricket. And I think there's, there's guys that do that here, and have done that we need, but we probably need involvement of more people. And that goes back to my earlier point about trying to enlist and recruit as many people to help as possible, whether they're people that are currently in cricket or outside of cricket. We need that help if we really want the sport to get moving. Okay.
And you also have a new board, as you said, that was elected as well. What can you say about some of the persons that were elected alongside you last Saturday?
Yeah, great. I mean, first things first, to everybody that put the hand up, that's I think a pretty brave thing to do, and volunteer to say, look, I'll take this on, and in my spare time, try and do something to contribute to cricket. So I think, they're pretty brave to do that because it's quite a big undertaking. And you see that from previous members of the board. I mean, look at somebody like Tamika Johnson. She's been involved for a long time. She knows, her eyes are wide open. She knows how much work it takes. We're very cricket, I think, is very lucky to have somebody like Tamika able to play a part in that. I think everybody there has got a lot of passion for cricket, and that was quite clear in the elections. There was some really good, really less so much with the elections, but more just the discussion about cricket. There's so much passion from, the representatives, and that's really important. I think if you had a quiet audience where everybody sits and doesn't say anything in those kind of meetings, then that would be a bigger concern. And I think it's great that the new members of the board were, in my view, all very vocal in those discussions. They all had opinions. They've all got, they want to see things better. And I think, we just need to kind of bottle that passion and put it into a plan to make cricket move forwards. And I think it's a nice representation too. Like I should comment, it's not all current players. There's a mix of players, former players, people that are just associated with cricket. I think it's a really good blend of people with a lot of experience and a lot of interest in the game, and that's what counts the most.
Mm-hmm. And in terms of, as you said, I keep going back to this, you said you still have to meet with the board, but I'm sure during the election process, there was some mandate that you would have had yourself. Can you reveal what is your mandate, if you do have one, that would have convinced the voters to elect you as president? Yeah,
that's a good question. And to be honest, I think I'd love to say there was I made a great speech with a great mandate as to what we were going to do, and so did the rest of the board. I think part of the challenge in terms of the way cricket is structured is it's not necessarily geared up that way right now. And I think actually one of the things we'd like to do is that for the next elections, actually give people an opportunity to present what their ideas are more in advance. Being completely honest, I think, we've probably got that a little bit the wrong way around. I did obviously let everybody know my intention would simply be to try and galvanize everybody, pull people together. It's certainly not, it's not about one person. It's about, and to be honest, not even about a board. It's about having the whole cricket community galvanized around trying to move cricket forwards, right? And to me, that's the most important thing, because there's no way that one person, whether that's a president or a vice president, can run a sport here successfully on their own. You need a really big team, and that's not just the elected board, that's the whole cricket community. And really that's what I said to everybody. So I think, people know me from being involved in cricket. They know me as a player, terrible batsman, average bowler. So they probably know what they're voting for. But yeah, I think it's a nice mix of people, and I'm just, really glad to be involved.
And just rounding up now in terms of, before we go, I know for a lot of persons, as you said, know you from cricket, but for those who may not know you or who are watching 284 Media and listening to you and seeing you for the first time, just describe yourself to the public of who is Mr. Haynes, and what you mean to the BVI community as well.
Sure. Yeah. Look, I mean, I think I'm a grocer, right? So I think most people probably know we're sat here in RTW. I run RTW here, and very lucky and privileged to have the opportunity to be involved in this business for the last 4 years. It's a great business. I like to think that we're a really big integral part of the community, providing food and beverage to pretty much everybody on the island in some capacity. That's a role I take really seriously. It's not something that I think you need to be in front of the media of very often. So that's why, you probably don't see a lot of me. And I say the same to my team. We're kind of heads down, busy trying to, get food to the island and do the best that we can for people here. Outside of that, cricket has been probably my biggest interest since moving here. And other than that, just enjoying the beautiful BVI. And, I think really the biggest thing for me about cricket is, outside of work and obviously the community connections you get being a grocer, it's just a great opportunity to get to know a lot of people with a lot of interesting backgrounds, all with a different, diverse cricketing story, but all sort of put together here in the BVI to play cricket on a Sunday. And that's why it's a really beautiful league. I think cricket here is really special. If I think about cricket in, some of the counties where I played as a kid, it was great. You'd know your club, but that was probably the limit of your cricket community, was that one club that might have had, 1, 2 or 3 teams. Here, every club, all the different clubs, everybody knows each other, everybody helps each other. And I think that's a really beautiful thing about the cricket league here and that community. It's very tight. And
in terms of you are a cricketer yourself, what's your specialty?
I'm not sure I can answer that on camera. I like to think of, genuinely, I think my batting is pretty poor. And so I definitely couldn't say batting. I know there'll be people laughing as if they are listening to this, but yeah, my batting's pretty poor. But I'll give it a go. But I like to think of myself as a fairly average to good swing bowler, although the pace is fading away. So in my mind, I'm a lot faster than what I think, but I definitely give it a good go. So yeah.
So you're more a bowler than an all-rounder. Definitely not a batsman.
I can vouch for that. Yeah.
Okay, great.
Yeah.
So any lasting words for the BVI public before we go?
Yeah, just, we want everybody involved in cricket wants, to grow cricket and see cricket be a sport that people can enjoy. So, if anybody out there wants to be involved, step forward. We need as much help as we can get in whatever capacity that might be, whether that's to play or to be involved in organising cricket, or as a sponsor. We're certainly not turning anybody away. And if you're just curious, come down and watch. It's a great game. Hopefully we get tournament restarted pretty soon. You get to finals time, it gets pretty exciting. It's a great spectator sport and a brilliant atmosphere down there. So yeah, feel free to come down and check it out firsthand.
Okay. A great viewers would have heard it from Mr. Haynes, Mr. New Haynes, newly elected president of the BVI Cricket Association, just spreading some information as it pertains to his plan for cricket in the BVI, not only in 2024 but onward. And one of the key takeaways from this interview is developing a plan for the next 5 years at least to ensure that cricket continues to advance. Where we can see it benefiting not only those who are playing now, but the youth who are the future of the territory. So thank you again.
Thank you.
Here's really appreciate it.
Likewise.
Viewers, on behalf of 284 Media, I am your host, Kamal Haynes. Hope you enjoy the content. Until next time, bye-bye.